welcome back to the second episode of our countdown of Old Hammer miniatures. Following out from our first episode where we introduced our choice for your Chaos Forces in the form of Mighty Zug Arkwright as our all-time number 5. And please, if you missed that episode, follow back and see what we talked about. For those of you who are not here, what we're trying to do with this little series of videos is take a look back at old amateur miniature releases and offering what we think are miniatures that can offer some character to your rank and flank armies in games of Warhammer the Old World, which you might be toying with at present. Can I just take a moment out to thank all those people who sent comments, whether as a video comment or another way. Your feedback has been greatly appreciated. And please, if you're watching us, don't forget to pop a like and a subscribe for us and put your notifications on so you don't miss the remainder of this series. Again, this is not solely my opinion, and I've asked a number of my friends to make their suggestions, and these friends range from people who have only been in the game for a few years, to whom I've shown old issues of Citadel catalogues to show them what was available back in those days, to those who have years of experience over a number of previous editions of this and other fantasy style games. But I've also heard some of your thoughts so far, and it's been great for me to go back and have a look at the miniatures that you have been suggesting, and some have become really close to breaking into the top 5. Now, we have a set of criteria that we've got set for ourselves to meet. The first being costs. We have considered that the only single miniature available from GW or Forge World for the Old World at present, and therefore our benchmark for cost, is going to be set at £23 for the Questing Knight Paladin from the Bretonnian Ranges. 2, it must not suffer from scale creep. We all know that some ranges have increased in scale over the years, and we want to ensure that our old school choices do not distract from the overall look by being noticeably shorter or more spindly in stature from the rest of the models they're going to be on the table with. 3rd, I want to find painted examples of these models. Getting examples from you guys in the community to ensure that these models can be painted to a standard that, again, isn't going to be out of sorts with what can be done with more modern miniatures and more modern techniques. And finally, 4, the models must be selected for either of the core armies listed in the Forces of Fantasy or the Ravening Hordes, but also we're going to include the legacy armies that have been supplied by the PDFs by GW. As we all know, people have these armies. People have an interest in these armies, even if they cannot be played at official GW events. I'm sure you've all seen the countless battle reports that's on YouTube from various other channels, and also reports of events that are out there that are making sure that these legacy armies are part of the overall scene for Warhammer the Old World. So here goes. Number 4 out of 5. Let's see if you agree with this one. Now, this is a difficult one because this is one that belongs to a range that is still a very solid fan favourite and was one of the few races that actually survived intact from the end times of Warhammer Fantasy and migrated into Age of Sigmar. So with that brief intro and the cover photo for this video, if you've not guessed yet, we're talking about rats. For this choice, we're going back to 1985, which lands us right in the throes of 2nd edition. And with the release of this set of miniatures, a lot of people's choice for their Games Workshop army choice is going to change quite dramatically. In the catalogue section of November 1985's 3rd Citadel Compendium, there appeared a selection of 10 sculpts from Jez Goodwin. Range C47, the Chaos Ratmen, or Skaven. And suddenly, everybody, including myself, were all really interested in what was going on in Fantasy Sewers. The range itself was not individually named, that would come a little later, but each figure in the range was given a description of the type of miniature that each was representing. And this was because Jez was already sitting on quite a detailed lore that was soon to elevate this small range into one of the most loved fantasy ranges that GW have ever produced. This 10 was also just a taste, and some months later, with the Spring Citadel Journal in 1986, the complete lore was brought to us. Now, I'm not going to deep dive into the lore itself. This video is about choice in miniatures, but if you wanted to listen to someone who's adept at this sort of information, then you can't go far wrong than Jordan Sorcerer. And we'll make sure we put the link about Skaven in the description below. Now, the range of the models almost doubled to 19 distinct sculpts, and now being able to represent all the clans of the Skaven race, and also being expanded the following year with the inclusions of things like command groups and war machines, such as the warp fire throwers, Giselles, and the poison winged Lobadiers. Pack animals such as giant rats and rat ogres came to the fight, and soon the army took flight, and luminaires like Peter Taylor and Andy Chambers showed their takes on how great an army of this could look on the table. If we look at the more modern versions, the overall aesthetic has not really altered since 1985. The weapons, the armour, are being visibly the same trope as what was done originally in Jez's 1985 sculpts. So which miniature are we going for? Well, this is where we come across a bit of a problem. Because the range is so iconic and so characterful, there's very rarely any point where each person I talk to and discuss with this range could agree, as everybody had their own favourite. So what we're going to do is putting in number 4 in our list of top 5 is the actual full 1985-1986 range of Skaven from Jez Goodwin. But just to highlight one, I'd like to put in my favourite, and that would be Spine Blightmaster, the original Plague Monk. But obviously, please insert your own favourite here. I remember shifting through the blister packs at my local games workshop here in Birmingham when the Skaven came out, to make sure the first pack of Skaven I ever bought, and I spent that week's pocket money on, contained this sculpt that I just had to have. Again, the search for these models now on eBay and other websites, there are a number of these sculpts still available to us. And for cost, Spine came in at under half the cost of the Knight Paladin at £9. So if cost is an aspect, we can tick that off against more modern ranges. As Skaven have been able to migrate over to Age of Sigmar, we also have more modern sculpts to compare it with. And this is where we see that these older miniatures can be seen to be a bit more robust than their modern counterparts. Especially less spindly in the tails and at the ankles, and much less of a haunch to their backs. So as such, they more than keep up to not looking too out of place and too dated to be included in an army of Skaven. Are they playable now in the old world? Well, yes and no. Yes, because although not and official GW events. Events are already allowing these legacy armies and these PDFs to be armies that you can use at their competition. And it's only GW who aren't allowing them. But I don't play tournaments anymore. So would I be more than happy to face an opposing army of these guys on the table? Absolutely, because I'd be straight back to the late 80s, early 90s and playing games of when I was 12 or 13 years old. But the Skaven are such an iconic race within the history of the old world. I'm sure that in the future, these will become one of the core armies, along with the rest of the Legends armies. I mean, in this timeline, Mordheim's comet has already hit, and we know from the computer games and the Mordheim games how much Skaven are involved with that narrative. Finally, paint. A Google search for these models will throw up countless examples of the great work done with these models. And again, we've highlighted our friend Wraith Wisp and the number of Skaven that's available to be seen on his Instagram feed. So again, please follow the link and go over and see the quite stunning work that he does, and includes in our original OG monk. So it's win-win for this choice, we think. And I'm sure that if you looked at your top 5, if you are playing along this area, then one of these sculpts may have made it onto your list. Maybe being a lot higher than number 4. But there's some great miniatures to follow, and I can't wait to see your reaction into what's in the top 3 spaces. So how did we do? Do you agree or not? Again, I would love to hear your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. And thanks to those who have already shared with us. Now, you still have time to influence the top 3 with your suggestions, if you can make the case for them. And what I may do is maybe have a look after we finish this series of 5 about doing a community video in which I can highlight your selections, so we can all share those wonderful old Hammer models that are still available to us. So hopefully we'll all see you next episode. But until then, from Dungeons to Starships, good gaming.